On this particular day, they were both in the room together, and Governor El-Rufai was stridently making the case for social protection policies in the country as a means of ensuring that no one was left behind. Comrade Adams Oshomole, on the other hand, was pushing the potential business to chart the course for economic development. None of them was wrong. I share this story to show how disparate the worldviews that they had held had significantly changed. One, an earlier capitalist, had now moved more to the center, pushing social welfare. The other one, more or less a socialist, had moved also, as the wheels of progress turn, the poor, socially excluded, and vulnerable in our society benefit from well-designed programs that cushion the effects of negative shock like disabilities, sickness, or unemployment. Yes, we want to build physical and social infrastructure to power economic growth. But while doing that, society must think about the poor living among us right now and ensure that there's a minimum floor to which they do not fall. There is no uniform definition of social protection or indeed economic empowerment. But in Kaduna, we see it as a set of public programs and initiatives aimed at addressing not only income poverty, but also poverty across several dimensions, as well as social vulnerability of the poorest residents of the state. It represents government's desire to ensure that everyone in the state can access necessities and services unhindered. Even among those who do not necessarily belong to the category of extremely poor and vulnerable, many of us are just one mishap, one sickness, one accident away from falling into poverty. That is how deeply concentrated poverty is in most African countries, and Nigeria is not an exception. A breadwinner dies, and the family is able to earn a living. He is pulled daily to the roadside to beg for alms. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, regardless of how wealthy some of us in this room may be, we are all one close relative away from extreme poverty. It is not a theoretical conception away from extreme poverty. It is not a theoretical conception to anyone here. Indeed, a global pandemic like the COVID-19 broke out, and millions lost their source of livelihoods while complying with government's strict lockdown directives to protect public health. It is unacceptable for citizens in a progressive society to live with the reality that they are completely on their own in times of hardship like this. Social protection and economic empowerment, in a sense, must serve as a ladder to lift the poor out of poverty and as a safety net to catch those who fall into poverty. The aim must be to truly leave no one behind. There have been improvements in the approaches taken by progressive governments across the country towards social protection. There seems to be a proliferation of new social protection and economic empowerment programs across different states, with many of our states innovating new programs. Many programs are still at early stages for any detailed impact assessment, and many still have just a handful of beneficiaries. Yet the fact that we're talking about it in a forum like this, at this scale, and with this level of seriousness is a good sign. I have made the point that our state governments could be doing much better with how they approach social protection issues. That point is irrespective of the fact that there are real, substantial challenges faced across the country in different shapes and sizes. As much as we cannot allow the challenges to become a basis of failure to meet the needs of the poorest and most vulnerable amongst us, we must recognize their existence and know that they are not trivial challenges at all. And then we must find solutions. Top on the list of challenges is that there really isn't enough money to spend on social welfare and economic empowerment, even for governments who genuinely believe in the necessity and utility of these programs, especially when you're dealing with complex other priorities that are faced daily by governments, like the issues of security or infrastructure, which I'm sure my brothers in the next session will deal with more holistically. The revenue base in many states is too small to address the important competing needs which government must spend on, and implementing economic empowerment and social protection programs are not cheap. As a country, for instance, we still struggle with building a viable framework for taxation. Nigeria is one of the lowest tax countries in the world, with 1.5% tax to GDP ratio. Even by Africa standards, Nigeria is right at the bottom, and 1% falls far below the 12.75% tax to GDP ratio, which is regarded as the minimum for accelerated growth and development. Limited productivity and resources means that as governments are unable to expand economic empowerment and social protection programs, and in many cases unable to consistently fund available programs. We also have socioeconomic challenges to social protection, where attempts are made to divide the needy based on tribal, religious groupings, or even party classifications. Closely related to this are political challenges, where members of the ruling party or opposition party view social protection as rewards for party supporters, which defeats the purpose of the programs and causes distrust in the general population. Nowhere is the need for data more evident or critical than in the design, implementation, and monitoring of these programs. This is a serious challenge we faced in Kaduna, and even as much as we pay attention to data, it has been difficult gathering credible data, especially because some kinds of data can only be realistically collected by the federal government. Take the national census, for example. The last census, which was highly controversial and highly contested, was conducted in 2006, 15 years ago. The only major social welfare survey we have come across, children, women, students, farmers, and other groupings in the state, and cannot authoritatively say how many of them can be categorized as poor and vulnerable. This makes planning for these programs very difficult. There have, however, been major successes. At the federal level, the party, led by the federal government, has established one of the most ambitious social impact programs on the continent from 2016 with the launch of the National Social Investment Program. With it came NPower, designed to assist young Nigerians between the ages of 18 and 35 to acquire and develop lifelong skills. Beneficiaries in this program, graduates, skilled, unskilled, and out-of-school youth, all receive stipends for contributing to the development of the nation through various sub-programs like NTAX, NPower, NTeach, NHealth. Additionally, the CCTs, called conditional cash transfers, which directly target the lowest in our poverty bracket. The Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, which provide low-interest loans for traders and artisans and farmers, and of course, the very popular Homegrown School Feeding Program, which is premised on the fact that we'd increase our enrollment numbers in schools if we provided an alternative incentive, namely food for our children. With these vital demographics covered, the people needed to feel the impact of the new progressive government were targeted and reached. And Nigerians across the nation have felt once again that we have a government of the people, which was chosen by the people. In Kaduna, under the leadership of Dr. Erufai, our work was similar, but a lot more tedious. With fewer resources at our disposal and a lot of work to do, we began the process of gradually but surely increasing state government's spending in education, health, infrastructure, agriculture, and other key sectors. This year alone, under our commitment to prioritizing the development of these four sectors, over 72% of our budget has been deliberately channeled into programs and projects in these sectors. But we have not stopped there. It is one thing to spend. It is another thing entirely to generate revenue for development. That is why we carefully focus on developing the sectors and the areas that directly impact the lives of everyday Nigerians. We have worked to expand our state's capacity to collect more internally generated revenue. All this without hiking taxes or proposing new levies that affect the pockets of citizens. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that good governance is not easy. However, it is also not hard. It is deliberate, it is conscientious, and it is understanding the problems first and developing tailor-fitted solutions to the issues that affect the men and the women on the streets, who are looking to their government to not just provide an enabling environment for them to have better lives, but to provide better access to new opportunities to kickstart new endeavors. In 6 years, our party has shown that we are the party of the everyday Nigerian. We have shown this through our programs and policies. We have shown this through the initiatives that we focus on, and we have shown this through the numbers. Yes, as emphasized earlier in my remarks, we have been hit with several challenges. We have faced steep decline in crude oil prices. We have gone through 2 recessions. We have been hit with the unexpected arrival of COVID-19, which slowed down economic activities across the world and across the nation. However, we have confronted each challenge that we have faced head-on and together. As we move forward, conscious of the challenges ahead, ready to provide solutions to the problems that we face, and hopeful to be able to positively impact more Nigerian lives, we have our work cut out for us. However, we are young progressives, and by our very nature, we welcome any challenge. Let's get the job done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Sani, the teacher. Please, another round of applause for him.
TV Africa live from Abuja.
We told you we can do it, even though I think some of us didn't understand half of what he was saying. But I can see from the faces, a lot of people are actually impressed. Thank you very much for that paper. Would now like to proceed with the program. I invite my co-anchor, Mr. Ben 200, to come and give us the lineup of the program as they unfold.
Well, thank you very much, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. We want to specially appreciate the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the President of the Senate for coming out to grace this occasion. We will, however, invite to give us a little rundown is a special advisor to the Honorable Speaker of the House of Representatives, Stima Kakuri, to give us that rundown, and then we'll be back to take through